When you think of SpongeBob Lost Media, what topics come to mind? Maybe something from the earlier days of lost content from the series, like Astrology with Squidward, whose shorts had been missing since all the way back in the mid-2000s. Or maybe you are more familiar with the popular searches that directly came from the Lost Media Wiki, like A Day with SpongeBob, an unauthorized mockumentary that took the internet by storm in 2015, only for all of us to discover the movie never actually existed in the first place. But out of all the pieces of SpongeBob Lost Media that I've come across before, a piece of lost SpongeBob music has definitely not been one of them. While music lost media as a category is nothing new, I've never really thought about the music used in the background of cartoons before, or that it was a topic that could go missing and be searched for. But when you think about this concept in more depth, it kinda makes sense. Similar to how video games get original soundtracks composed for the background and different areas, cartoons get a score too. But unlike the video game music, usually only small portions of the songs get played in the show, and it's not a kind of media that gets released on its own too often. And when it comes to SpongeBob music from the show, I was shocked to see that Nickelodeon had actually released a SpongeBob soundtrack back in 2005 called The Yellow Album, which contained many popular songs from the show like The Sponge and When Worlds Collide. It's a pretty cool piece of media to even be in existence. But if you've been a long-time fan of the show or its music, you'll notice there's one track from an older episode of the series that cannot be found on this album, or any home media that's been released for the series. It's not on YouTube either, or anywhere else online, because it's currently lost media, and there's a search that's starting to form around finding it. The story begins with the 2001 episode Party Pooper Pants, from the third season of the series, bringing us back quite a while in the history of the cartoon. In this episode, SpongeBob throws a house party, but has all of the activities he's planned on a strict schedule. His guests don't listen to him and take control of the party themselves, which results in things getting out of hand. Eventually, the characters break out into a dance, and it's in this scene where our topic is heard, the background music that plays during the scene. It's a catchy little tune, but upon first listen, you might not think anything of it, and I certainly didn't even remember the song at all. But SpongeBob fans have been trying to track down a copy of the full song for years, and within the community, it's considered one of the most sought-after background tracks from the show. The first specific mention of this track that I could find online was in an SB Mania thread titled "What Is This Song Called?" from 2013. OP recollects the dance scene from Party Pooper Pants and asks what the song is called, and where they can find a full version, having stated they've been looking for years. The reply reveals the track is called The Humpback Hop, produced by Theo Mondel, as production music for the show. Theo was a recurring music producer on SpongeBob, with some of his creations even having made their way to the Yellow Album. But as stated previously, this track did not. Unfortunately, the thread is short and it didn't seem to catch the attention of the community at the time. What I find most interesting is that OP claimed to have been searching for the song several years before even having made this post, so even back a decade ago, the track remained elusive. It wouldn't be until 2022 when Music Master YT restarted the search by spreading awareness of the topic online and making a few different posts in the lost media community, as well as having sent me a DM about it. Of course, I wasn't too familiar with the topic at the time, but a lot of information has been passed on since then, and the quest to try and locate a copy of the song has begun. The first step to take when searching for a piece of lost media, especially something from a cartoon that has specific credits, would be to contact the crew who worked on it, and in this case, that would be the producer of the Humpback Hop, Theo Mondel. I would have done this myself, but Music Master YT already had, and gave me the information Theo presented, which includes some interesting background about the song, along with some other important pieces of information that will come in handy later. Firstly, Theo describes the method he used to create the song, and states, "On that track, I played all the instruments, including the drums, on an Ensoniq ASR10 VX sampling keyboard in real time, recorded on an Akai Professional DPS-16 digital recorder. I didn't use any mics since all the instruments came from the keyboard. Nickelodeon gave me the sound effects, which were used in the 5-minute 30 seconds long track." It's interesting to hear that the track was made to be that long, especially since only a small portion of it are even used in the episode. But it's exactly for this reason why we can't just get the song from the show. Not only did the full 5 minutes and 30 seconds not get played in the actual episode, but the character audio and other sound effects were so heavily used, it's almost impossible to get it to sound clean. Fans have attempted recreations, and some of them sound pretty good, but it's not the same as the original, so this won't do. Which leaves us with the big question about whether or not he still had a copy of the song. And when asked about that, Theo confirmed that only Nickelodeon has the master. He doesn't have the master or stereo mix anymore, but would support a re-release if Nickelodeon decided to reuse it in some way. This was definitely a disappointing answer, but it's good to have confirmation from the official source, rather than keep guessing about who might have it. It always seems to be like this with lost media searches. Rarely does a piece of lost media get found so easily by contacting the creator who could have simply uploaded it to his website had he known fans wanted to have an archive of the whole song. Or wait, maybe that did happen. What if I told you the Humpback Hop used to be available in this way? This is where things get a little more interesting than what Theo stated in his reply, because throughout the search process, Music Master and myself have uncovered a series of possible ways to unearth this song without waiting for a re-release from Nickelodeon. The first lead in uncovering the location of the lost song takes us back to the original SB Mania thread and to the last reply the thread received in 2013 when it was first created. There's a claim made by one of the users that caught my attention the moment I read it, stating that the full version of the Humpback Hop was once available on Theo's website, but it's since been shut down and can no longer be found online. This might be the only mention of Theo's website in existence, because I couldn't find anything about it no matter what I searched for. Theo does have ways to access his music and discography, but nothing directly about the Humpback Hop or this old website. Music Master even replied to this thread asking for the name of the website, but was informed the user who mentioned it has since been banned from the forums. If this user had a more specific name, I maybe would have tried to track them down on a different website or forum and ask if they remembered the URL, or had any information that would be useful. But searching for Web Surfer SpongeBob doesn't bring up anything that I'm looking for. Their profile also shows that their last login was in 2014, so it's possible they're not even in the SpongeBob community anymore. And with the website having gone down anyway, even with the URL, we wouldn't be able to access it on anything other than the Wayback Machine. But my theory is that if we somehow did find the URL and look at old captures, it's possible the music file was archived and could be downloaded, or that some kind of data could be taken from the file depending on how much was saved. Theo made no mention of this website in any of his messages, so if it's legit, there could even be other production information on the site that he doesn't recall. Though without a URL, or even a screenshot to prove it's real, I have no way of verifying it. I'm not sure if Theo would remember the URL or any of its details if he was asked directly, but I would like to reiterate that Theo Mondel has already been contacted, and the information to the questions he was asked is everything he says he knows. Music Master had sent a progress update to him at one point, but Theo says he's moved on from the topic and wishes us the best, so please do not reach out to him again. There's no guarantee that anything would have been saved, even with the URL, so if this was a case of not catching the website while it was up, that's really unfortunate. The second option we have for getting a copy of the song takes a completely different approach than trying to find a digital version that might already be online hidden away. This lead, involved a physical CD that was rumored to exist and could possibly contain a copy of the song on it. Though admittedly, it might be just as elusive to find as a URL to a website that no one can recall. But just the idea that a physical CD might exist is pretty interesting, and considering the fact that the Humpback Hop wasn't included on any official music releases, it surprised the heck out of me to hear of this discovery. Back a few months ago when Music Master was talking to Theo about SpongeBob music, he asked if Theo had a master copy of Bubble Beach Arcade, simply because Music Master liked the song. Theo stated that he didn't have the master to that particular song either, but then, in passing, mentions that he gave Steven Hillenburg a demo CD of songs that he loved, with the date of 2005 being attached to this disc. Needless to say, this demo CD itself would probably be very hard to obtain for the fact that it resides within the inner circle of SpongeBob creators. And I've come across some discussion of trying to contact Steven's relatives and ask for the whereabouts of the CD, but that kind of contacting is never in good taste. Even though we don't actually know what happened to the CD, just the fact that it's confirmed to exist is a good sign, because that means there's a chance it could resurface, as long as it's still in existence. To give you an idea of how this could happen, there was a search several years ago for a pretty famous Pixar DVD called Made in Point Richmond, which contained all kinds of rare content from the studio. This DVD was only available to employees, and the majority of crew we contacted who had copies didn't want to share its content, until someone came forward on the Lost Media Wiki forums with a copy they got from their aunt who got it from a friend. The point is, you never know who can have exclusive media or where it can be found. Maybe someone has that CD and is watching this video and doesn't even know there's lost content on it. Or maybe copies were made and more of them exist beyond the only one Theo recalled making for Steven. Though I should make mention that it's never directly stated the Humpback Hop is on that demo CD. Remember, it was brought up in relation to Bubble Beach Arcade. But considering it contained many of Theo's tracks, and was put together as late as 2005, there's a pretty good chance it could be on it. And then of course we have the third option of finding a copy, which is probably the safest and most fail-proof, the old school method of simply making contacts with people who would have had access to it or have a copy and hope they can share it with the community. Essentially, we're doing the same thing that happened when Music Master asked Theo about it originally, except now we're branching out and going down the rabbit hole. Although in this case, that rabbit hole, more or less, leads back to Nickelodeon. Remember, as previously mentioned in the video, during the first conversation with Theo, he mentioned that only Nickelodeon has the master. And honestly, that would seem like a pretty likely start and end point with this search. With the exception of Theo's old website and the demo CD, there really isn't any other place where it could be. It was made specifically for SpongeBob to be used in the Party Pooper Pants episode, and likely wasn't passed around the company or shared with network executives like a pilot would be, for example. So how did the contacts go with Nickelodeon? Believe it or not, Music Master was so dedicated to finding this track, some of the work had already been done for this, and they shared their findings with me. The first person contacted was someone who works very closely on the music tracks for SpongeBob episodes, and was allegedly the person who worked on Party Pooper Pants directly, leading to the conclusion that they would be the best person to ask about if the track is still at Nick and if a release would be possible. However, Music Master was unsuccessful at getting a hold of this person, and even other community members have had difficulties in the past. Apparently, this editor doesn't have a lot of social media accounts to even be reached by. I looked and didn't find too much either, but rumor has it they prefer not to use social media. There's even another rumor that he actually got in trouble for sharing background tracks from SpongeBob in the past, but this is disputed by other users, so it's unclear exactly why he's so difficult to reach. But there was a second editor Music Master told me about, who had almost the same level of credentials as the first one, and is currently working on music editing at Nickelodeon. But again, there was no response. The reality of the situation, no matter how close or far we would have gotten with these contacts, is that there's a problem in both of these cases. The fact that both people still work at Nickelodeon. When creators and employees leave the companies they're working at, sometimes they'll take a portfolio with them, especially if they helped create those assets. And it's those times that are the best chances of getting someone to share a project they're passionate about. But when you're still working at a company and get asked to share content by fans, it really isn't in the interest of the employee to leak internal stuff. This is further proven by a third person Music Master contacted, a storyboard artist on SpongeBob. While he wasn't directly related to music editing or composition, he was associated with production and stated, "Sorry, I wish I could help, but I'm not supposed to get this deeply involved with fan requests or release any assets Paramount/Nick owns. I also, unfortunately, don't have any contact with the editors or music people." When it comes to a piece of lost media as specific and, in some cases, heavily guarded as this, there's another option that the passionate fans have to make their voices heard, and it was mentioned in Music Master's Lost Media Wiki forums thread about the Humpback Hop. Purple Lamp Studios has been developing a new SpongeBob game called SpongeBob SquarePants Cosmic Shake, which is going to use music taken directly from the show. In response to this fact regarding its development, rallying behind the Humpback Hop and making it known that you want to hear the song in the game would be a great way of generating interest and getting Nickelodeon to even be aware of its existence again. I noticed user DarkRage6 on the Lost Media Wiki forums even mentioned having inquired about the song being used in the game at THQ Nordic, with a response that stated, "Unfortunately, we don't know anything about future titles/patches/DLCs or bug fixes, but any client requests and feedback about our titles are taken seriously and will be debated." So sometimes the smallest of actions can be a big help. Though the game itself is coming out at the end of January 2023, so maybe it's a little late to make your voices heard for this project. Even though I had never heard of this topic before Music Master YT reached out to me, it was an interesting search for content I never even thought about before, and it's the kind of search that is easy to get addicted to. Keep the song in mind for future SpongeBob releases, and hopefully, we'll get to hear the full version of the Humpback Hop after all these years. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to check out some of my other Lost Media videos. Thanks for watching, and until next time, Finn.